Hi, this is Cheryl for Bayer's Pampered Stampers. Today I'd love to show you some fun flowers. They're super easy to make using a product in the shop called Sizzix Sculpting Foam. It's made especially for flowers, although you can use it for butterflies and lots of other things. So I thought this little set was cute. This is a Sizzix die. It's called Flowers in an Envelope, very descriptive title. I did my own take on it. I tried to use their sample here on the cover is actually done with their flower foam as well. And I tried to pick out the same colors, except I wasn't a fan of this yellow flower here in the center. So I changed that to purple. But otherwise, the colors I think are exactly the same as what they used. And you can see how they transformed, excuse me, by adding a little ink to the edges of the flowers and leaves, and then also applying a heat tool. How simple is that? No flower forming tools, no rolling, nothing. Very simple. So I want to show you how that works out. But first, let me show you my other sample. This is a 39-cent gift bag from Walmart, so just so you're impressed with that. I added a doily and a beautiful flower, again made using that sculpting foam from Sizzix, and a Teresa Collins die set called Magnolia, as well as this Sizzix leaf set that's called Elegant Leaves. So that's where I got the greenery and the leaves for this little project. Again, very pretty, and who wouldn't love to receive that gift with that beautiful flower? The only thing that I added to it, outside of using the foam and a little ink and a little heat tool, is in the very center I added a drop of glue, and I used some tinsel glitter to make that center come alive and sparkle for you. So a very, again, simple project, but it will have impact, I'm sure of that. So let's take a look at the sculpting foam product. It comes in boxes. We'll do these one at a time. They're kind of big. They're 12 inches long. There's 5 different sheets inside the box, one in each of the colors that is shown on the front of the box. So that's the Blossoms set. This one's called Sunset Garden, and you can see it's a little brighter. So pretty. But we've got a duplication of colors there. That's all good. This one's called Bouquet. It has the lighter and more pastel-y colors in it. So 2 different pinks. It's kind of hard to see the difference, but there is a difference, and we'll work with it later so you'll see that difference. And the white and cream, as well as a lighter green. And then last but by no means least, we have Springtime. And Springtime, again, has some bright colors, some pretty corals, nice bright yellows, and a deeper green than we've seen in the others. All in all, if you were to buy all 4 boxes, you'd have 15 different colors. So there is some duplication. You can see the pinks are duplicated here. One of the corals duplicates between these 2 sets. The Springtime and the Sunrise Gardens, the greens and that sort of thing. But it's really okay. They're colors you would use. So let me just set these aside for a second. Let me show you what happens when you open the box, because it doesn't look like much. Okay, I'll give you that. But when you open it up, inside you find a roll of this foamy goodness. Again, it's your 5 sheets rolled together. Now they're 12 inches in height and they're 24 inches long. So it's the equivalent of having 10 12 by 12 sheets. Excuse me. So when I first got my boxes, what I did was I unrolled everything. I cut each of these sheets in half so that I had 12 by 12s, and then I just stacked it along with my regular cardstock. That gives it a chance to relax out, lose the curl from being rolled in the box for so long, and that sort of thing. From the 12 by 12 size, you can then cut it down into whatever size you want for making flowers. For the little guys like these, I tend to cut it into 4 by 6 sheets, and that works fairly well. I get quite a few flowers out of that, and it's not an unwieldy size. For the bigger flowers, like you saw in my gift bag, I'm going to need a bigger piece, and so you just have to measure your largest die and figure out from there what's it going to take to get that done. Now here's some smaller sheets that I've cut just to show you the different colors that are available if you were to purchase all of the sets. Again, you know me, I gotta have them all. I love the colors, I love having the choices. If you want to, starting out, just get one, try it, see if you like it. I think you really will. But from the pastel set, you have the white and the ivory. There's the 2 yellows that I believe are in the springtime set. Here's the 2 pinks, and it's kind of hard to see the difference, but there is a difference between them, and they work very well together in creating a flower. I used them together on this flower. The 2 center sets of petals, the 2 smallest of the petals, not the centers, were made using the darker pink, and then the leaves on the outside used the lighter pink. I used the same color of ink to edge all of them to sort of tie it together. There's 2 really pretty corals in there and kind of a peach color. You've got 2 purples, kind of a robin's egg blue, or it could be a green if you really wanted it to be, although it definitely has the blue tones. And then we've got 3 different greens that come in the sets. Again, for all of these colors, you'd have to buy all 4 boxes, and that's what would happen. You'd have a few duplicates, but that would just give you more of that particular color to use. Easy to store, no particular requirements. You can roll it back up and put it back in the box it came in. I prefer to keep mine flat, so I have it with my regular cardstock, and I just cut it as I need it. I use my regular paper trimmer. There's something funny about it, even though it's very light and lightweight. I don't seem to be able to cut 2 sheets at once, but I certainly can cut them one at a time with no problem whatsoever. It's pretty sturdy stuff. It's not really fragile like you'd expect. Some people liken it to the craft foam that's sold in the stores for the kids. It is nothing like that. It's much, much thinner, excuse me, and a very different consistency from that. But a very cool product, and I think you'd have fun using it. It came in last year right around the time of the very first lockdown, so it was easy to lose track of. Nancy was going to do a class and show us how to use it with a picture frame, I think, and unfortunately that class ended up being canceled due to the pandemic that we thought would resolve itself in just a couple of weeks, and well, gee, here we go. We're still dealing with it, I guess, so you just never know about these things. In any event, it's very cool. So back to this set, we're going to work with the flowers from this set to show you how the foam works. These dies that come with it are actually somewhat on the small side. So if that's bothersome to you, you may want to choose a different flower set. Although they were pretty easy to work with. The smallest pieces are the centerpiece they give you, which is this little guy right here, and it cuts two flower centers, and it's kind of annoying. You can achieve the same thing, believe it or not, with a hole punch, so maybe think about using that instead. But the other pieces are here. I just, excuse me, for purposes of today, I'm just working with this flower, the sort of matching smaller die, and this little center die. So let me set these aside a little bit. Actually, I'll return them to the bag so I don't lose a piece. I've been doing a lot of that lately. I hope you guys are not having the same luck, because it's just frustrating to lose the dies. So I cut some pink flowers with those dies that I showed you. I used the lightest pink for the big flower. The inside, which normally would be a little darker in nature, excuse me, I used the little bit darker pink, and then a yellow for the very center. This one, and I'm going to put this back on this white cardstock so you can see a little bit better. Versus this one, you can see the difference just with a little bit of ink. This one is plain, just the foam, nothing done to it. On this one, I added a little bit of pink ink around the outside edges. I used a finger dauber. That was easiest for me. You use whatever is easiest for you. The ink goes on very, very easily. I'm going to try and show you on this one, actually. I was going to say, I know I have some pieces here that aren't fully put together, so let me grab this one. The sponge on the foam seems to work the best for me. So I just went around the outside edges. You can do it circular. You can just sort of swipe at it, whatever you want to do. I kind of didn't worry about making a pattern or not making a pattern with it, because it's gonna, when we apply the heat tool, it's gonna scrunch up a little bit, so we don't know exactly what it'll look like. So there's no worrying about it. Excuse me. I would do these normally before they're put together, but I wanted to allow a little bit of time for glue to dry, so I went ahead and put them together. But you can see you can still go in with a finger dabber and add some color. I like to add color on both sides. That gives you some coverage in case the flower does sort of curl up in the heat process. But there you have it, pretty simple. Now I'm going to pull out an evil tool, a stylus, and the only reason I have this in my hand is because I have to hold these things down so they don't blow away. So I'm going to set this guy aside for a minute, and we'll work with this flower here that has the ink on it. I'm heating up the heat tool here just for a second. It works a little better if you know you have a little heat going into it. It's not mandatory, it's just going to take a little longer to form if you don't preheat your heat tool. But I'm going to use my stylus, and I'm just going to hold this flower down in the center because I don't want it blowing all over the place like that one just did. But if you watch, just putting a little bit of heat, look at that baby curl. The center part of it just curled right up. I do like to make sure my flowers are put together before I apply the heat tool, because I want to know final shape and how's it going to look and that sort of thing. I'm trying to get this bottom part to curl up and it's not cooperating. I'm not quite sure why. We'll take that paper away and see if that makes a difference. Goes. So again, my stylus is just here to hold it and to keep it from blowing away. I got a little bit more dimension than I really wanted with this particular flower. So I can go ahead and push it down while it's still warm. I could reheat it a little bit and push it down and see what happens. You have a lot of choices with it. Now, normally my center curls up a little bit too, and I just hadn't gotten the heat to that point. And there's that part as well. So again, can you get any easier on forming a flower? I don't think so. Look at how cool that turned out. Now for comparison, I want to take and do this one, excuse me, that hasn't been inked at all, just so you can see the difference between adding a little ink and just leaving the product as it is. Once again, I'm holding it down in place. It doesn't take long because as soon as the heat starts hitting it, it's going to start curling. Oh yes, you can overheat these things. I will say in the process of doing this, pick something that has a blunt tip like the stylus. I'm worried about using pokey tools and scissors and things like that because I think when the foam heats, it could become a little sensitive to that pointy tool and potentially could rip a hole in it. Although I curled this one up much more than the other one, you can see the difference, and I'm going to bring it closer to make sure you can, between an inked flower and one that's not. Look at how much prettier this one is. So take that few extra minutes. Again, neatness doesn't count, that sort of thing. Just do something cool with it. Now, I've never really overheated this foam, but I thought it might be interesting to do that with the last little piece here. Let's see what happens if we just continue to heat this. Not sure if it'll just go up in a ball, if it'll just shrivel up into nothingness or get melty. I'm not sure. Oops. I'll try and get it back here for a sec. It's almost like working with the shrinky dink. It just gets smaller and smaller. So there you have it. This works regardless of the size, whether you're working with a bigger flower like this one or the little flowers that you see here. Again, you see the more that you heat, the smaller that you get. But super, super easy product to work with. When I was doing the larger flower, this one, it struck me how similar the foam feels when it's heated to just a real flower petal. It has that delicacy and everything else. So really stop in, check out this sculpting foam. It's really, really cool. I know you could do some great things with it. Doesn't take any skill or patience or anything like that in order to achieve some pretty cool flowers with very minimal effort. Thanks for watching today. Bye.